Good morning and welcome to Street Coders. It's your boy Street Coder Nate, and today what we talking about for real is the importance of JavaScript. Like, why is JavaScript so important, and what is the purpose of JavaScript? It's just a talking informational one. So in the previous videos, and if you checked out any of the older videos of mine, you will see that I've introduced JavaScript in the syntax, and I told you that it is a programming language, and it allows us to add programming functionality to our front end visual websites. Right. Well, everything in programming now is kind of considered as objects, right? And we try to represent those objects all the time in programs. And so JavaScript is a great language for us to represent objects. Actually, there's this thing called JSON that actually stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And this is how we send data back and forth throughout the internet. And so JavaScript is very, very important in that it's just a good scripting language on the front end as well as at the back end. But this video is more specifically like, why is JavaScript important on the front end? But JavaScript is important on the front end because on the front end, you know that we have these HTML elements, right? And these HTML elements, we can get references to those elements. We already seen how we can get a reference to it in the HTML or in the CSS, using like hashtag and the dot, or just saying like the actual element's name. Well, JavaScript also gives us that ability to grab references. But the difference between JavaScript grabbing references and CSS grabbing references is that CSS grabs reference to style, while JavaScript grabs reference to compute, to manipulate, to do things visually, to change values over time. JavaScript really allows us, like, it gives us brains, if you will, on the front end. It tells the front end that when a user clicks on let's say an element, to create a new element on the fly and show that right away. That is called a dynamic element. The dynamic meaning that the page before was static and it just showed you the same values over and over, but as you begin to interact with the page, as in clicking on something, the page changed. That change is dynamic. It happened as you were working, and you caused that change to happen, right? And so JavaScript allows us to do that. It really takes our basic, put this words on a page and style it like this, plain old no moving around type shit. It takes that and it really adds some fun functionality to your projects. And so you can already add animations with CSS, but then with JavaScript, you can add like 3D animations, and you can bounce different things, and you could do multiple things all at once. That really, like, these cool websites are doing. It's JavaScript is doing all that, doing all that. And if you see the HTML and CSS for these websites, yeah, they may be a little longer files, but when you really break them down, they're just divs that are broken up with images and pictures, and then that's really it. That's the simple. JavaScript, once again, is where we add in this functionality. JavaScript is where we can take the values from a form, package it up as a JSON, send it to a backend API server, receive data back from that API server, and show that data on the screen in less than a second. That is the power of JavaScript. And that is what we're going to use JavaScript to do in these videos. So previously, I set the tone with the syntax. I actually went through and explained each and every part about JavaScript. Check those videos out. I just used my iPad and I drew it out. I explained to you why we even have this part and why the computer needs this in terms of a programming language, and then use JavaScript specifically to show you how we do those things. Then I created you a 50-minute video that really then went to the screen, and at the screen we did actual JavaScript syntax. Lastly, I then went over just a quick higher order functions video that I kind of use most of the time. And now it's pretty much just like, here's the importance of JavaScript. get a reference to your HTML elements, manipulate those elements, and then just change it, or get a reference to those elements, manipulate them elements, and that's about it. Like, that's what JavaScript is. And setting handlers, event handlers. What are event handlers? Well, an event is something like a mouse coming onto the screen or coming onto an element, let's say hovering over element. Well, JavaScript can say if a mouse hovers over an element, I need this element to change its position and do all this other stuff and flip and create an animation at the same time. Or when the mouse hovers over this element, I need another element to do something that's totally different. Let's say I'm hovering over a section, and then out of nowhere from the bottom right something flies out. Like, I'm hovering over the left section, and then from the bottom right something flies out. This is how creative you can start to become with your websites, with the power of JavaScript. And I'm hoping that I can really get it into your head how without JavaScript you really just have basic websites that can look good. Yes, they can look really good because the power of CSS is ridiculous. But the power of JavaScript takes those basic interactive websites, even the ones that look good, and add real good functionality to them that most people want on their websites. You're gonna learn how to do this through projects. You already sat through the lecture and hear me talk, hear me say so many damn times, say like and all that other shit. I really gotta work on my speech. One day, somebody give me some speech lessons. But you heard me you sat through all of that. Now this is the fun part. Start creating these projects with me. Tap in with me, create these projects, and build your portfolio. Build your GitHub up, build your knowledge on just all types of coding things, like servers, like API requests, like event handling. It's time to really open up your mind to a new way of thinking when it comes to JavaScript, when it comes to development, when it comes to anything. So I hope you're ready to create, because that's what we do here. With Nate, you create. Street Coder Nate, we code, we street, we create. We do all that shit here. So welcome, and I'm glad that y'all are here. And make sure y'all share this video so that everybody know what the importance of JavaScript is, and that they are interested into coming and following along on some of these adventures that we are going to go on as we start building out these applications. Until we get to those adventures, I'm going to see you on the ground. Hopefully follow me in the comments. Hopefully leave a comment, drop a like, make me smile. I'll see you then. Peace.